Welcome to Hoop Talk Fanatics, episode number 7. Uh, I am here with Alec Busse, and he's a writer for Illinois basketball. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk to him about what his thoughts are on Illinois hoops and everything around it. And welcome, Alec. I'm definitely happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. Definitely happy to talk, especially after a pretty good game on Saturday night between Illinois and Arizona. Pretty great environment. So always happy to come on and talk to you guys.
So my first question is, what were your overall thoughts on the game this past Saturday?
Yeah, so obviously it was a pretty good game. Going into it, I actually expected Arizona to win. So it kind of went how I expected, at least in terms of it being a close game, good environment. State Farm Center was rocking, Orange Crush, student sections, loud, making a lot of noise. I mean, it kind of took me back to the end of that 2019-2020 run that Illinois had right before COVID stopped everything with the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament. The environment was maybe the best I have seen it inside of State Farm Center. Obviously, Arizona coming in, 11th ranked team in the country, runs the doors off of Michigan earlier in the year, and to see them kind of come in and play the way they did with, Benedict Mathurin and Tabellis is a really good player. And Kurt Kriisa was really impressive to me, especially in the second half. And Christian Koloko is a likely, first round NBA draft pick at center. To see what he did defensively against Kofi Cockburns was incredibly impressive. But obviously on the Illinois side of things, you see two guys in Trent Frazier and Alfonso Plummer just kind of shoot the lights out. Both of them make 6 threes on the night, both finished with 25 and 27 points each. But Illinois didn't get enough from other players. I mean, Kofi Cockburn finishes with 13 points and 13 rebounds, but 5 of 15 from the field. That's not very good. And Jacob Grandison, who's been really good for them off the bench, especially offensively, gets some 14 points, buries 4 threes, and he's essentially automatic from this point from the corner. So they got good contributions, but they didn't get enough from, Kofi Cockburn was fine. He left a lot to be desired. DeMonte Williams didn't score, really struggled on the defensive end. And obviously Coleman Hawkins was, a growing pain game, to put it politely.
So my next question is, Austin Hutcherson went down and with a sports hernia, and he's not out for the season. What are your thoughts on that situation and moving forward with this team?
It's a pretty interesting situation. I don't know how closely you followed it the last couple of years, but Hutcherson transfers to Illinois from Division III Wesleyan University before the 2019-2020 season. He has to sit out because of NCAA transfer rules at the time. He actually doesn't play and practice for the last couple of months of that season because of an aggravated back injury that he suffered when he was in high school. He was in a car accident and it gave him a stress fracture in his lower back. And then last year, he misses the entire season because of the stress fractures, back acting up again. And, this year coming in, you don't really know what to expect, right? Like Brad Underwood says positive things about how he's looked in practice. And I've got people telling me the same thing, that he looks like a pretty good player in practice. Some concerns about what his strength levels are going to be, but comes into the year kind of expecting to come off the bench, be a role player, but then he gets hurt in practice, falls on his tailbone really badly and hurts his tailbone and his pubis bone. That forced him to miss a couple games early in the year. He comes back. I think he plays in 2 or 3 games, maybe 4, averages about 2 points, 2 rebounds, less than 1 assist. So losing him is hard to gauge how impactful it is because he hasn't been fully healthy really in his Illinois career. And when he has been healthy, there's been flashes of a really nice ability to finish at the rim, but he also has shown at times that he's not strong enough physically yet at this level high major level to make a huge impact, but also he's a type of player that they don't really have. Like they don't have a 6'6", 6'7", 6'5" even wing that's uber athletic that can kind of stretch and space the floor. So losing him hurts on the surface, but you don't really know how much of an effect it actually is going to have. It gives an opportunity for Luke Goody and RJ Melendez potentially get into the rotation a little bit more, but I don't think it's the end of the world for Illinois.
So my next question is, Kofi Cockburns has been really dominant these past couple of games. What do you think about his performances throughout the last games?
Well, against Arizona, like I said earlier, I didn't think he was great. I thought Koloko did a really good job of disrupting him. Kofi finishes with just 13 and 13, 5 of 15 from the field. He got blocked twice. Those are obviously not the type of numbers that we have become used to seeing with Kofi in his career, and especially in the last couple of years, going back to last year. And of course, this year he's coming in preseason All-American, Big Ten preseason player of the year. So you're expecting him to be a pretty dominant player. And for the most part, he has been. He was really good in the Illini's 2 Big Ten games that they played against Iowa and Rutgers. Against Iowa, I think he finished with like 17 points and like 18 rebounds, which is a career high in rebounds. He wasn't great against Rutgers, I guess, 13 points, 15 rebounds. So he's pretty impactful on the glass in those games, but he was incredible against Notre Dame. He was incredible against UTRGV in those 2 games. And he was pretty good against Kansas State in his second game of the year because he missed the 3 at the beginning with that NCAA suspension for selling stuff on the player's trunk. But overall, like I've been really impressed with the way he's improved this year. I'm impressed with his ability to pass out of the post when double teams are there. And that's been huge for Illinois in their offense because they've got guys, namely Alfonso Plummer, hitting shots on the perimeter. Trent Frazier started to heat up, and then Grandison as well. So you got a couple shooters. So him showing that ability to pass out of the perimeter or pass out of the post to open shooters on the perimeter has been huge. And it's really helped Illinois' offense. And then also defensively, he's not showing a whole lot of improvement, but he's better. You can tell his footwork's better. He moves a little bit better. They still have to cover ball screens the same way because he isn't able to step out on the perimeter and defend. But overall, like he's a much better player than he was a year ago.
So my next question is, I know the rest of this month, it's a pretty light schedule for you guys. And I just wanted your thoughts on for the coming new year, starting off with a couple of big games. I can't think on top of my head right now which game you guys play. You start off in January, but I did scroll through your schedule and it looked pretty tough in January. And just wanted to go over our thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, the rest really, they've got 3 games here left before they start Big Ten play on January 2nd. They restart Big Ten play on January 2nd against Minnesota. They should go 3-0 against St. Francis, Missouri, and Florida A&M. Obviously, that Mizzou game's a rivalry game. It's in St. Louis, neutral site. All of those like factors that make that game close every year, I expect to still kind of be there, but we know how bad Mizzou is, right? Like they're one of the worst Power 5 teams in the country. I think KenPom actually has them ranked as the lowest Power 5 team, or at least they did at one point this week. So Mizzou's struggling. Illinois should run them off the court. But then you get to Big Ten play. And because the Big Ten has largely been pretty disappointing this year, right? Like Michigan was a preseason top 5 team, right? They were number 4 to start the year. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
At the worst, top 10, right? So they've fallen on their face. Obviously, losing to Minnesota last night in Ann Arbor is a bad look. A Minnesota team that has about 10 new players on it, a new head coach. So that's a bad look. But Maryland, they get a nice win. We're recording this on Sunday. Gets a nice win against Florida. But Florida also had a really bad loss this week. So like how good is Florida really, right? But Nebraska's been bad. And those are their first 3 games. They go Minnesota, Maryland, Nebraska before they get a date with Michigan on January 14th. That's a Friday. and then they play Purdue on Monday. So those two games, when the schedule was released, you're looking at like those two games being huge for, the picture of the Big Ten and who comes out on top. Well, now it doesn't look like Michigan's going to be there. But Purdue is obviously one of the best teams in the country. They've looked like that for much of the year. Obviously, the loss to Rutgers is ugly, but the hard-fought win against NC State on Sunday is also a little bit concerning, but Purdue's going to be fine. Like, Purdue's probably the best team in the country, or best team in the Big Ten, at the very least, one of the best teams in the country. I actually don't think their Big Ten schedule is overly difficult because I don't think the conference is very good. Like, I think Michigan State's better than what I expected. I think Wisconsin's obviously better than what I expected, but the jury's still out for me on Wisconsin. I want to see them continue to play against high major opponents. I want to see how good Johnny Davis actually is, but Indiana's kind of right where I expected them to be. Northwestern's not very good. Rutgers is really bad. And obviously Ohio State's kind of in that same situation where their guard play is going to dictate how good they are, because we know how good EJ Liddell is, and Zed Key is a nice piece as well. But how good are Jimmy Soto's, and how good is Justin Arns, and how good is Michi Johnson? And is he going to be able to run the offense at some point this year? So to me, Illinois is primed to finish in the top 3 of the Big Ten, which is right where they were at the beginning of the year, right? Like, that's exactly where people picked them, whether that was first, second, or third. I think most people had them third behind Purdue and Michigan. But yeah, if you're top 3 in the Big Ten, that's kind of right exactly where you were expected to be.
I just wanted to tell you that I was at the Purdue Rutgers game the other night ago.
How was that? I mean, that environment at the rack, I guess it's Jersey Mike's now, but how was that? I mean, watching that game on TV was incredible.
Oh my God. I just couldn't believe how well Rutgers put up with one of the best talented teams right now, which is Purdue. And it's crazy to watch them compete at a higher level than everyone expected them to do. And Ron Harper Jr. is just an incredible asset to that team. And I think that there was some expectations of them getting blown out, but they definitely went the other way and definitely dominated from start to finish. And I think that that's definitely a high statement that they put out there, even though they are like a game or two above 500. And I think that like everything that happened in that game was incredible. And I was really glad to be able to be part of it and be there in person. And did you get to watch the game?
Yeah, I watched parts. I watched most of the first half, and then I watched the last 4 minutes. I had something in the middle there that I had to get done or work on. But yeah, just a really impressive game. And the thing with Rutgers at that gym, it's a small gym. It gets really loud from everything I've heard. Sound just kind of hits off of the floor because there's nowhere else for it to go. It doesn't change my opinion of what I think Rutgers is, though. Like, I think Rutgers is one of the 4, 5, 6 worst teams in the Big Ten. Like, I don't think they're good. I question, they didn't have Geo Baker and they still won, but their bench is just not impressive. Like, they don't have much coming off their bench. And yeah, Caleb McConnell, Ron Harper Jr., Paul Mulcahy, those are all nice pieces, but they just don't have very much depth. And they don't really have.
They got rid of Myers Johnson.
Yeah, he transfers to UCLA.
Yeah,
you got Young transferring out to Oregon, right? So like, I just don't think that I don't think they're good. I just think it's really hard to go on the road and win in the Big Ten. And there's example one in this new season, and especially for a Purdue team that, while it has some experienced pieces and guys like Travion Williams, it is a lot of young players. Like, that's their first time going on the road in the Big Ten in a real environment. Like, Jaden Ivey's great. Zach Edey's awesome. Gillis is really good. First is good as well. But like, those guys are young. They haven't seen a Big Ten road game like that. So that's a rough first place to go.
So before I get to my final question, I don't know if you watch any Big East conference games, but I'm a big Villanova fan, and I wanted your thoughts on how they are performing over the course of the couple of weeks that they have been struggling with, especially today against a really dominant Baylor team. And my friend actually plays for them. His name is Eric Dixon, and he's like a big I'm not sure exactly what position. It sounds, I'm not sure, but he's like a 6'6", really talented individual with a ton of talent in the post, and he kind of reminds me of, I would say, Joel Embiid in the NBA, because he has that type of body that Embiid has. He's not like really short. He's got that weight to just like dominate in the paint. And I just wanted your thoughts on how he's been developing over the course of the weeks, and everything Jay Wright is doing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch the Big East as much as I probably should. I watch other conferences more, but the Big East is good this year. I mean, when you look at the top of it, right? Like Villanova is always really good. UConn's good this year. Seton Hall's ranked right now as well. They're in the 20s. They beat the Big Ten, was it 6-2, 5-2 in the Gavin games?
I'm not sure.
They beat the Big Ten though.
Yeah.
And then they also beat the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
So, or at least tied the Big 12, I thought, in that event that they do. So the Big East is off to a pretty good start, which is obviously maybe not a surprise, but a welcomed, like, oh, hey, yeah, the Big East still exists kind of thing, if that makes sense. Villanova, I do think is the best team in the Big East, but I don't think that Villanova is in the group of teams that I would say can win a national title this year. Like, I just don't think they have the dudes that other teams do. Like, I look at Gonzaga, right? Like, they have Drew Timme, they have Chet Holmgren. Like, I look at Baylor and they have, I'm going to botch his name, but Everyday John. So I'm just going to call him his nickname. They have Flagler. Like, they're just really good. You look at Duke and they have Paolo Banchero and they've got Mark Williams that's at center, right? Like, you look at Purdue and they have Jaden Ivey and they have Zach Edey and Travion Williams, and the list just goes on with teams. Kansas, obviously, with Ochai Agbaji and Rebby Martin. Like, I feel like those teams can win the national title. Texas, I think if they figure it all out and get all those transfers to kind of work together well, I think they can win the national title. I don't know if Villanova can, because I don't know. I don't feel like they have a dude who I think is good enough to go and like win them a game. Like Archie Diacono is a really good player, but he's not like an All-American. Like, he's not an NBA like highly sought after prospect. And you kind of need one of those, I feel like, to win in today's world in college basketball, right? Like, you need NBA talent, you need really good players.
I think they're missing Jeremiah Robertson, or
they are.
Yeah.
It's a great program. They're a really good team. They don't lose games that they're not supposed to. They did get blown out today by Baylor. But at the end of the day, like, I think Villanova is a really good program. I just think that they're in a position to get a really high seed. They should be a top 4 seed for sure. Should probably be a top 2 seed when it's all said and done. But do I think they can win a national title? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear like your opinions and other opinions throughout the college basketball world. And I think that at the end of the day, it's just going to show what will happen in their next game, which is a very interesting matchup against Creighton in Omaha on Friday. So I think Creighton is 8-1, and
Yeah, and that's a really tough place to go and play too.
yeah, and I think it's going to be a very tough environment to put a stamp on a win, but I don't doubt. I wouldn't doubt them getting the L against them, but I think if Count Gillespie and everyone figures out their offensive system from tip off in the first half to the second half, I think they win by at least 12 or so points.
It's a game they should win, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
feel like there's a game on Villanova's schedule in conference that they should lose.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if there's any games that they're not going to be favored in for the rest of the year. Now, I got to pull up their schedule. But I don't feel like I'm not going to pick against Villanova if they're going on the road at Seton Hall or on the road at UConn or like Xavier. Like, I'm not going to pick against them. The Villanova's a better team. Yeah. Like, they're projected right now to win every game the rest of the season, except on the road at Xavier. And they're 1.3 dogs. So, like, that's a pick 'em. And obviously, like, they're a 0.7 point favorite against Seton Hall on the road, but that's a pick 'em too. Like, I'm not picking against Villanova in any game the rest of the way as of today. Ask me in like 2 weeks when I might.
So before I let you go, I have one more question. So what is a typical day for you, like on game days for Illinois basketball?
Yeah, so for home games, I try and get to the stadium about an hour and a half, 2 hours before tip-off. I like to be able to see the team, especially this year with all the people who are hurt and have been sick and have missed time. I like to see who's out there warming up, who's playing, who's not playing. So I do that, talk with other reporters, talk with friends who are at the game. I have family who comes to all the games, so I try and get a moment to talk with them too. Just kind of take it all in, just appreciate how cool it is that I get paid to watch sports and write about sports and talk about sports. So I try and do all that. Obviously, watch the game, take notes. That way I have stuff for my articles later in the game. And then at the end, press conference after the game, say after I write a story or two, and then get ready to do it all over again a few days later. So
do you get a chance to speak with players pre-game?
not pregame, just post.
Oh, okay. So because of COVID, can you travel and be with the media, or do you do via Zoom?
Yeah, so for post game, so for road games were the ones I've traveled to. I went to Iowa. I didn't go to Marquette, but post game stuff was in person, in some like meeting room or something at Carver Hawkeye.
Nice. I totally would want your job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's been my goal for a while, and I'm definitely working on it. I definitely started a podcast with my co-host who lives in Kansas City.
Okay.
And he's a big Jayhawks fan. And he just couldn't make it tonight because he lost his voice at the Chiefs game.
They are known to get pretty loud at Arrowhead, so I won't blame him. And if he's a big Chiefs fan, I hope he's enjoying it because I think they're going to be I think they're going to be all right. I think the Chiefs are starting to turn things around. Their offense was clicking today. Yeah, I think they're going to be all right.
Definitely a big game this Thursday.
Yeah, it is. That's actually
Yeah.
very true. And normally Thursday night games are not great, so I'm excited that we get a good one this week.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on, and I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Anytime you guys need anything, feel free to shoot me a message and have a good one.
Okay, thank you.